Who do you think you are? Hey there, big stuff. Yeah, you there, hiding between rock and stone, whispering on the night wind, touching the dawn rays and the dying leaves. Just who do you think you are? You make us with joy, fill my soul with song, sung through moving, turning, twisting reflection. Danced 1,000, no, 1,000,000 times. In communion, revelation. Sung with arms and feet and torso and head, leaping into the stars and crouching into the earth. And you took it. Just who do you think you are to take that? Maybe I gave it to you, I can take it away like some angry, bitter mother, feeling unappreciated, broken. Is that you? What is it? Was I not grateful enough for the joys you gave me? You had to take them away so I could really understand. Just who do you think you are? Or did I do that? So before I start the sermon section of this, I want to say that this morning, Reverend Patty Willis at South Valley said something that I wanted to repeat for you. And that is that no matter how much someone else's understanding or vision or perspective seems like ours, we cannot assume that it is so. Now I want to start with another story. It's a very old story, okay? I've adapted it a little bit for today. There's this guy, and he's tending a flock of sheep in the desert. He's maybe down by Moab, where the rocky spires stretch into the sky, and the desert is colored like a pastel painting. And the wind smells like dry stone. Anyway, this guy is tending a flock of sheep. And he looks out over this hill and he sees a burning bush. And the first thought in his mind was, fire! But then I bet he thought, maybe I need some folks with buckets. But after a moment, he realized the bush was not actually burning up. And he thought, wow, I should go check out that bush that's burning. But not burning up, that is just too weird. So he goes up the hill to see the strange bush that burned but does not burn up. And he got close to the bush, and the bush called out to him in a whisper, yo, hey, Moses. So yeah, I guess his name was Moses. So Moses gets close to the bush, but not too close, because it's a bush. It's on fire, but it's not burning up. Whatever that is, it's probably good not to get too close to that too soon. And so this guy Moses, from a few yards away, goes, yeah, here I am. The bush whispers, do not come any closer. And best take off your sandals, for the place you are standing is holy ground. Moses didn't see anywhere to put his shoes, so if it were me, I would have left them on, no matter what the bush said. So I'm thinking he probably left his shoes on. But the bush went on anyway and said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Very intimidating. So Moses hid his face because he was afraid. Or it could be that he was ashamed that he was still wearing his shoes after that introduction. Maybe he didn't like rigid patriarchal power and he had issues with his father. So he could have been a progressive, we don't know. But anyway, the bush says, I have seen the misery of my people. I have heard them crying out in their slavery, and I am concerned about their suffering. I have come to rescue them from empire and bring them to a good and spacious land, flowing with milk and honey, and you are going to go down into the land and set them free from slavery. Moses looked at the bush, and he talked back. Just a minute. Who do you think I am? I'm a sheep herder. The most expensive thing I own is these sandals that I didn't take off. I can't go down and challenge an empire to bring your oppressed people out of slavery. That is not for me. In fact, this whole thing is crazy. And so the bush said, I will be with you. Moses stopped. He looked at the bush for a long moment. You know that kind of look that you give someone when they make absolutely no sense at all? But somehow what they said is compelling anyway. Moses said, look, suppose I do go down to your people and say, hey, look, the God your fathers is sending me to you. They're probably going to say, what God? Does this God have a name? After all, they've been in slavery for a while. You haven't exactly been around them. And what am I going to tell me when they ask me, which God are you talking about, you crazy sheep herder? Who are you anyway? And so the bush said to Moses, this is interesting. The bush, it says, I am who I am. This is what you're going to say to the Israelites. I am has sent you. I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent you. This is my name forever. It has always been my name. So you will tell them, I am has sent you, and I am is watching over you. I am has seen what has been done to you. And so I am will bring you up out of your misery and will take you to a new land flowing with milk and honey. Moses looked at the bush cross-eyed. Wouldn't you? Really? If the bush went into all that? I mean, you can kind of imagine if there was a road sign on the side of the road and it lit on fire and it said, I want you to go down to Washington. We must open the borders to all immigration. Tell them. I'm going home. But the bush said to him, the elders will listen to you. You and the elders will go down to the empire and you will say, I am. The God of the oppressed has met with us. We all need a 3-day weekend to go into the woods and burn some stuff and worship or else. The bush also said, sure, the rulers of the empire will not listen to you, kind of like Congress wouldn't listen to you if you told them about the burning billboard. So I will perform wonders and I will make them listen. And every poor household will take their wealth from the rich. It's going to be great. Everyone's going to be free. So go on and get on with it. And Moses thought, why not? I'm bored with these sheep. So he went down to the land of empire and he spoke to the rulers, the emperors, and he set the people free. And there was some stuff about plagues on the oppressors, oceans opening up, people wandering a long time. They're eating some kind of bread that grew in bushes. There was a serious incident with a golden calf, ignoring the amazing things that I had done. And there was also, but ultimately the golden calf thing turned into a blip that everybody got over later. Mostly because Moses, being mouthy like he was, stood up for the people to this God. And when God got angry about the golden calf, Moses told him, these are your people, dude. All in all, it went pretty well. I suspect you may have heard this story before, some of you. Last week, I made reference to this story, or 2 weeks ago, when I was talking about covenant. I summarized the story with, if you challenge Pharaoh to free the people, I will be with you always. I like the longer version. Each of our relationships to creation is unique, special. Like Moses, maybe we each have our own still, small voice. Or maybe it's a big, burning bush calling to us. At least that's what I think. Now, I love this faith I grew up in. My mother was an ex-Catholic, my father was an ex-Congregationalist. And the Reverend Kenneth L. Patton, who wrote our readings today, was my childhood minister. He was a mystical humanist. He wrote both the readings today and he preached about the human experience, the beauty, the uniqueness, and yet the similarity of our experience. There was never any mention of God. Ken was a professed and devout atheist. Is that a thing? Devout atheist? It seems to me like it should be. The word certainly describes the minister of my church when I was growing up. He was maybe an evangelical atheist, spreading the good news that there was no God. Yet for me, every day in my childhood, there was a presence with me. And when I talked to people about me, they sent me to psychiatrists. They gave me medicine. They told me to yell at the presence, go away now. And yet it stayed, it never left me. After a few experiences, I learned to hide this knowledge from the adults. In my highly intellectual, critical community, and don't get me wrong, I have no issues with that community today. Not anymore. I mean, I did for a long time. I was angry when I realized that my childhood church tried to take my God away from me. But I worked through that, and I learned something. I learned how important it is for our faith to recognize the individual and unique nature of each and every singular being's relationship to creation. Because as a child, impressionable, do you have any idea how loudly those voices, with their adult authority, were saying to me, there is no God. Unitarian Universalist theologian Forrest Church has been profoundly important to my work as a chaplain and to my identity as a Unitarian Universalist minister. Forrest Church wrote a theological metaphor called the Cathedral of the World. Church writes, the cathedral of the world begins with a light metaphor, one light, many windows, and draws from the introduction to Unitarian Universalism that I wrote with my colleague John Bourens, although tailor-made for my own denomination, Unitarian, one light, Universalist, many windows. My cathedral metaphor weaves an all-embracing theological garment suitable for Universalists of every religious persuasion. Church's metaphor is simple and yet deep, rich, and powerful. Imagine awakening from a deep sleep to find that you are in the nave of a vast cathedral, opening your eyes to a previously unseen world. Your awakening is a calling that stirs deep inside of you, the call of life itself, of creation itself. Gazing around you, the cathedral stretches out in many directions, as ancient as humanity. It is built upon our history, our belief, our disappointments, our faith, our hope. The cornerstone is the first altar, stained with blood sacrifice. Etched and hidden in the myriad shrines are statements of reverence in many tongues, some made by scientists glimpsing a moment of the eternal, others by faithful, etching them in hope. The cathedral has been built stone by countless builders, working age upon age their whole lives, destroying and creating, tearing down and raising up arches, chapels, gargoyles, icons. Innumerable moments of hope, fear, joy, and loss are carved in every stone surface. They shape every wall. They stain the glass in every window, and countless memories are hidden away in the chambers, halls, and shrines. Not a moment passes without dreams of long-dead dreamers cracking or breaking underneath the pressure of new vision. Immortal and yet ephemeral all at once. Illumination shines through many windows, illuminates many corners, and shadows play across others. And the beauty is as breathtaking as it is terrible. And there is a still, vast, ponderous, and terrible beauty. Welcome to the cathedral of the world. The importance of this metaphor to my work in ministry and chaplaincy, to the way I do that work, cannot be overstressed. For me, the same God who said to Moses, I will be with you, is embodied in that light in the cathedral. The illumination that touches every idea, every etching, every window in different ways. When I was young, that presence was always there for me. It whispered in the babbling brooks of New Jersey. It laughed on the winds that touched the leaves of the trees. It grounded my heart with the smell of wet earth or stone, and it touched my nose when crisp night air chilled my lips. As a child, I was alone in that spiritual world. I think I can appreciate the reception that Moses probably got when he walked down to his community and said, hey everybody, listen, I gotta pack up and go talk to this Pharaoh and these enslaved people because this burning bush said I need to do that. So, hey mom, dad, don't worry about it because I is coming with me. And I really gotta hurry because Pharaoh has no idea how much trouble is actually in. I gotta give him a chance to let all his slaves go free, trash the national economy of his whole civilization before things get really bad. That is exactly the kind of speech I would want to have said to my parents, or my wife, my kids. And James Luther Adams is another Unitarian Universalist theologian who has influenced me tremendously. He wrote that God is dynamic, not mandatory. For James Luther Adams, God is the inescapable, commanding reality that sustains and transforms all meaningful existence. It is a reality that works upon us and through us in an accord with which we can achieve truth, beauty, or goodness. James Luther Adams seems to capture the same sense of the eternal yet ephemeral, mysterious presence that is found in the illumination of that cathedral of the world, or that I hear in the story about Moses. Did you know that the Hebrew for I am, and please, if anyone here actually speaks Hebrew, please forgive my enunciation, because I'm not well trained in it. But the Hebrew for I am is Yeh Asher Yeh. And the translation could be I am. And some scholars also view the translation as I am that I am, or I will be what I will be, or maybe even I will be what I become. I like to think of the phrase that Burning Bush said to Moses as I am becoming, or even being. Being will be with you. And the name of God used most in Hebrew scripture is called the Tetragrammaton. It is Yod He Vav He, which appears to be, if there's any linguistic geeks in the room, you'll like this. It appears to be an archaic third-person singular imperfect of the verb to be, meaning he or she is. And yes, the gender is ambiguous. And since Hebrew is poetic and meaning is artistic, it's impossible to translate the verb exactly. So what does that mean? To me, it says that even in Hebrew scripture, the oldest sections of the Bible, the same sections that Jesus studied as a rabbi, the most commonly used name of God means mystery. The gender is unclear. The tense is unclear. Is it I am or I am becoming? Is it is, he is, she is, they will be? The verb is incomplete. God is just entirely unclear. And it's been that way for several thousand years. And what is confusing to me is all the people today that seem to say, we know who God is, because we haven't known him for the last 4,000 or 5,000 years. Albert Einstein, you may have heard of him. He wrote, the finest emotion of which we are capable is the mystic emotion. Herein lies the germ of all art and all true science. Anyone to whom this feeling is alien, who is no longer capable of wonderment and lives in a state of fear, is a dead man. To know that what is impenetrable for us really exists and manifests itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty, whose gross forms alone are intelligible to our poor faculties, this knowledge, this feeling, that is the core of the true religious sentiment. In this sense, and in this sense alone, I rank myself among profoundly religious men. Now, I am not suggesting that Einstein believed in God. It is very clear he did not. Many other quotes make that abundantly clear. At least Einstein did not believe in a God that could be defined or described or projected upon as an intelligence. Instead of that, Einstein believed in a sense of amazement, a sense of mystery. During his contemplation and studies, he sought to know the workings of the universe, and his seeking filled him with a sense of reverence and wonder. Now, to me, it sounds like perhaps James Luther Adams and Einstein had similar ideas. That there is some vast, mysterious, compelling force, a force that transforms us and calls us to all great creative endeavors. In my understanding, that illumination which Forrest Church writes about in the cathedral, which sheds light on every corner of human faith and hope, that casts illumination upon all the beauty, without covering or dismissing what any one individual might see or find. Truly a cathedral of the world. Now, we keep arguing and trying to define this mystery, effectively grabbing each other by the arm and saying, hey, come over here. Look at this stained glass window I found. Do you see all the beauty and truth in it? In this cathedral, as if our discovery were the only thing of beauty in the entire cathedral. We seek to categorize and define and structure the infinite, But then again, that is our nature, isn't it? There was an idea in a book on grief and loss that I read by authors named Mitchell and I believe Anderson and Johnson. All of our losses, all of our griefs. And there's this small section in this chapter, and it talks about the infinite nature of creation and how incredibly infinite the entire universe is. And, they were more Christian and more religious or minded authors, and so they talk about God, but you could just as easily replace the word creation in their sentences. And they talk about the infinite nature of everything. And then they draw the metaphor that we are finite. And yet there is something infinite in us that longs to be a part of all of that. And their understanding of the nature of loss relates to that difference. Now, I have a story too. It's different than the one I started with, but it's mine. And it's the story that makes that presence that I talked about in childhood so important to me now. So in 2008, I was at home alone. My wife was out of town. She was going to be gone for several days. I was tired, I was working too much, I had not eaten enough, and I felt suddenly nauseous, and I got up to run to the bathroom. And the last thing that I remember was the bathroom door going by, or the kitchen door going by, and not anymore. I had passed out while running, and I fell on my face in the hallway, and I skidded 6 feet up the hall. And when I woke up, I was paralyzed from the elbows down. Literally. Completely paralyzed. And, I realized when I woke up, I couldn't move my hands, my legs, my body, just my shoulders and my upper arms. And I also realized that I was going to be alone for the next 3 to 4 days. And realizing that I would die there all alone, there was a mind-numbing panic that took over my mind. Not just panic, but that deep, mind-numbing primal fear that rises up from the very center of your bones and takes over your whole body. My mind shut off as I lost the ability to think, buried under waves of terror. And something came over me in that moment. At the time, I was a Kung Fu practitioner, and I practiced a lot. I studied a lot of meditation and a lot of training. And maybe in that moment, my training kicked in. Or maybe it was that presence, or what some people might call the peace that passes all understanding. But something in me went quiet and still, and when I woke up again, I realized I was controlling my breathing. And that with the control of my breathing, my ability to think had come back. And I asked myself a question, and the question kind of popped into my mind. It was almost like it was said from somewhere else. What can I do right now? And I started to explore what I could do. I explored the moment. I realized I could move my elbows. I realized I could drag myself, move. I started to try and drag myself through the house. And what followed, it took me 6 hours of dragging myself to be able to call 911. And I passed out multiple times. Things were really strange. I was in shock. I did some bizarre things. I took a 3-foot detour to change the television channel because I felt like it was wrong to die to a vacuum cleaner infomercial. So I found a good action movie, I think it was Blade 2, and I put it on, and there was my soundtrack, and I got back to dragging myself across the floor. There was the 911 team, the backboard, the emergency room, and through all of it, I kept wondering how this was going to affect my wife. If she would be able to handle it. I wonder if I would ever get up again. Or if my lovely wife, who married a successful businessman, Kung Fu practitioner, and folk hero, seriously, she married Batman, not somebody who was wheelchair bound. I wondered if she would be cleaning up after me every day for the rest of our lives. When I arrived in rehabilitation, I asked the doctors if I would ever walk again, and they said to me, "We don't know. Your nerves seem to be good enough. Your responses are good. But that's only a small predictor. We just don't know." And again, that peace came over me. Something happened to me, and I remember saying that it's just between me and Providence, or Allah, God, whatever you want to call I still feel some emotion rise up in me when I say that phrase, and it has been 7 years. And not because I remember the loss. The loss was huge. I never got all my functionality back. I still have spasticity and paralysis. I lost my kung fu, which, if you remember the poem that I started this sermon with, it was years after that loss when I started to learn how to grieve, when I had words to say to God about what I had lost. 20 years of training, and it was all gone in a moment. An instant when my muscle memory got hit and changed and the reset button went off. 37 different systems of Shaolin Kung Fu just erased from my mind because my body felt different. And I never went back because my body can't do what it used to be able to do. But honestly, I don't get emotional because of that loss. I get emotional because of the phrase that I said, I guess, between me and Providence. And when I said that phrase to the doctors, what I remember is that I felt it again. I felt something embodied by, I will be with you. And you notice that when the bush talks to Moses, it does not promise that Pharaoh will not freak out. It does not promise Moses, you will not be tortured. You will not be killed. You will not suffer. It does not promise that the people will actually be free. What the bush promises to Moses, it doesn't even promise Moses that he's gonna make it to the promised land, this land of milk and honey and dreams. And do you know what? For a spoiler alert, he doesn't get there. He gets to a mountain that overlooks it, and that's it. Now, what this bush promises is, I will be with you. And that is the extent of the promise. It is the extent of what it commits to. It says, I am becoming, and I will be there. And that is exactly what I felt when I was alone. Paralyzed and hopeless as I was, I am a presence that my therapist, my parents, my faith community back in the day told me that I should chase away. And I am so very grateful that it actually never left me. That even when a young man felt the authority spoken from a pulpit about the wrong God, and still the presence never left. And I was waiting for the moment when I needed it to hear it whisper, I will be here, I am with you, I am, we will become. And become we did. I kept my hope, I had more energy. Nobody that the rehabilitation staff had ever seen worked in rehab like I did. I worked literally to the point of unconsciousness, with a smile on my face. And because of that energy, because I was willing to be the only crazy patient literally strung up from the ceiling in a harness, trying to do kung fu, flailing about. So if you can imagine that, a 200-something pound man strung from the ceiling in a harness, flailing around in unrecognizable movements, being like, no, really, I'm doing kung fu. I think I must have looked like a giant pin guy. But because I am was with me, I was reborn in a very real, very physical way. I am so very glad that the cathedral was large enough to hold both what I heard from the pulpit and what was spoken to me and what the adults around me said and what I felt in my heart. Now, I cannot say that I know which God calls to you or speaks to you, or even if there is no God that speaks to you, but there is some sense of reverence and mystery, I hope. And one of the things that makes me a chaplain is that I am absolutely astonished to hear the myriad voices of choir echoing through that cathedral. To see the many beautiful windows and the many amazing etchings, to listen to people describe what they see, and to actually hear in amazement and say in amazement, I have no idea what you are talking about, and I can tell for sure that it is important to you. I had that conversation this morning. I have a friend who is an atheist. We are really good friends. And he is perhaps the most profoundly spiritual man that I know. And although whenever I say that, he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then he talks about connection between all things. He's the only person that I know or have met or have heard of who, on a whim, decided, you know what, our seventh principle is the interconnectedness of all things. I am going to give up a kidney to a stranger. Because we are all interconnected, and that seems like something I should do. No idea of God. Absolutely no interest in God. No interest in a creative intelligence or a driving force. And yet he acts as though it calls to him. This family talks about the mountains. Another family talks about a favorite fishing hole. Some talk about church and singing, and many do not. That I am, that Ie, Asher, Ie. Illumination, dynamic force, that reverent sense of mystery in creation, hope, mystery. And we all seek in some way to define it. We all do that thing where we grab somebody and say, really, let me tell you about my part of the cathedral. Let me tell you about my window. And I always wonder, does defining it diminish it? Which God is yours? Thank you.